Ford Granada Mk1. Buyer's Guide. Once a mainstay of the executive saloon market, the original Ford Granada offers space, comfort and a great driving experience. Ford was under no illusions when it came to replacing the Zephyr and Zodiac models. The firm was well aware that something more modern was needed. Work had begun in the late 1960s and the result was a car that celebrated its 50th birthday last year, the Granada and Consul of 1972. Built at both Dagenham and the Cologne plant, the big saloon and the estate available later the same year proved the perfect range toppers for Ford and were cars that many aspired to. Having a Granada on the driveway showed you'd done well for yourself, and if you couldn't quite stretch to a BMW or Mercedes, then this was the next best thing. Especially if it wore the gear badge. This was the first European Ford to do so, and no doubt many an owner felt a twinge of superiority when they surveyed all the extra luxury kit. Such badge snobbery aside, the Granada had plenty to recommend it, from the spacious and comfortable interior to a driving experience that was much improved compared to its predecessors. Ford were on to a winner, and with numerous tweaks and updates it would last until 1977 when the Mk2 was waiting in the wings. Bodywork. There's no escaping the fact that rust is the major concern when considering a Mk1, and with plenty of metalwork to check, it's a case of casting a critical eye over every inch of it. Starting at the front, you'll need to pay close attention to the state of the bonnet and wings, both inner and outer, with a particular focus on the headlamp bowls and the lower sections, and bear in mind that finding original replacements for these panels is tricky. You can source reproduction front wings, either in steel or glass fiber, from European suppliers, but they are quite pricey. The front valance can rot out, too. Working rearwards, the bottoms of the doors are another common rust spot, and pay plenty of attention to the sills, with the back ends being prone to turning frilly. Rear wheel arches, quarter panels and valance need careful scrutiny as well. And that's not the end of it, as corrosion can strike beneath a vinyl roof, while blocked sunroof drains can lead to rot in the C-pillars. Satisfied with the condition up top? Then get a good look beneath, focusing on the cabin and boot floors and the front chassis legs. And remember to assess the state of the paintwork and make sure that a shiny exterior isn't hiding filler and grot beneath. Finally, you'll need to consider the condition of exterior trim and chrome. Tracking down replacement bits can prove difficult. Light units are scarce, so anything that is damaged or missing has the potential to make restoration more of a headache. That said, the likes of Motomobile in Germany is a good starting point for sourcing spares. If all this sounds like bad news, it's no worse than many other classics of this period, and while a major restoration project needs to be approached with a degree of caution, there's plenty of knowledge and advice to be found within the various Granada owners clubs. Engine and transmission. While you'll find cars for sale powered by the smaller engines, it's the lusty 3.0-litre V6 that tends to be most common, and it's a unit that suits the Granada's relaxing driving experience. It's also an engine that, with proper care, will prove capable of covering big mileages, so evidence that the oil and filter have been changed every 3,000 miles will be reassuring. Don't ignore the usual checks for exhaust smoke, overheating, low oil pressure and signs of head gasket failure, but assuming it's not been neglected, there's not much to worry about, and part supply is very good. Those same checks apply to any of the engines you might come across, and while camshaft wear can affect the 2.0-litre Pinto, it's a very easy engine to work on or rebuild on a DIY basis. The mechanical simplicity continues with the transmissions, where you'll find either a 4-speed manual or the C3 3-speed automatic. The former is usefully robust, and a test drive will soon reveal any whines or noises that point to the need for a rebuild. Don't forget to check the operation of the clutch, although replacement isn't difficult and you can source a replacement for less than £100. As for the automatic, it's both strong and reliable, so really just needs a check of the fluid to make sure it's not sludgy or blackened. Shifts should be free of jerks or delay, but should an overhaul be needed, there are plenty of specialists that can handle this. Finally, use the test drive to check for any noises from the back axle or clunks caused by worn prop shaft joints, although neither are a major cause of concern or expense should an overhaul or repairs be needed. Suspension, steering and brakes. Ford equipped its big saloon with double wishbone suspension up front and an independent setup at the back, and it resulted in ride and handling that received plenty of praise from Motoring Magazine road testers of the day. Well-maintained examples should still impress in both of these departments today, and if you're looking for a classic that'll cover big miles in comfort, you'll probably find the Granada very much to your liking. There's not much to worry about in terms of problems, either, so you can just concentrate on checking for the usual suspects of worn dampers, broken springs and corrosion around mounting points. Sourcing original specification bushes isn't always straightforward, but the easy answer is to replace them with polyurethane items. Doing the whole lot can see costs add up, especially once labor is factored in, but it'll be worth it in the long run. Another aspect that made these Granadas good to drive was the precise and accurate rack and pinion steering, so any waywardness or slop will need further investigation. Aside from the rack itself, where a rebuild will be needed, parts are available, so an overhaul shouldn't be problematic. Check for any leaks from the power assistance hydraulics, though. As for the brakes, they were well up to the task, but it's worth checking for the usual signs of wear and neglect. Consumables such as pads and shoes are easy enough to find, but sourcing a replacement master cylinder or servo isn't quite so straightforward, so you're looking at a specialist rebuild. Calipers can be rebuilt, too, and it's neither a difficult nor expensive job. Lastly, some cars are fitted with alloy wheels, so check for corrosion and damage and ensure that examples stored away for shows and very occasional use aren't sitting on aged tires. Interior and trim. These cars certainly aren't lacking when it comes to space and comfort, and those attributes alone are enough to make the Granada a very attractive ownership proposition. Where difficulties crop up is sourcing replacement trim, so don't be surprised to find the example you're considering isn't original in this respect. In any case, you'll certainly need to spend time assessing the condition of seats, carpets and plastic moldings. While finding a rust-free car is far more important, don't underestimate the expense of professional refurbishment, or the hassle involved in tracking down missing bits. That's pretty much the extent of the bad news, though. Equipment levels are simple by modern standards, so it's just a matter of checking that the likes of switchgear, windows, locks and sunroof mechanisms all work as they should, and the straightforward electrics don't present much of a problem, either. Scruffy wiring and corroded connections are likely to be at the root of most problems, although it is worth reassuring yourself that the car you're considering hasn't been subjected to amateur repairs and modifications. There's the potential for all manner of bodges over the years, and plenty of time can be spent sorting them out. Ford Granada Mk1. My thoughts. If you're looking for a family-friendly classic that's good to drive, then you'll likely find the Granada a very appealing prospect. The Ford badge might not have the cachet of the premium German Marques, but when it comes to all-round ability, such things really don't matter. The comfort, space and refinement on offer make long journeys a pleasure, and if you opt for the smooth 3.0 V6, you won't feel shortchanged by the performance, either. Combined with the automatic gearbox, it's a very relaxing way to travel. If there's a downside to ownership, it's the potential for corrosion and the rarity of some parts, and while it's no different to many rivals in that respect, it does mean you'll want to be circumspect before considering a restoration project. You'll be better off finding an example where all the hard work has already been done, in which case you can just concentrate on keeping it in tip-top condition. And that shouldn't be too difficult given the helpful and knowledgeable owners clubs that are out there. Yes, the Mk2 was much improved, but the original Granada very much deserves consideration. While these cars aren't exactly common in the classifieds, you will find a small number for sale at any one time, and the clubs are a good starting point if you're keen on bagging this big Ford. We're looking at prices for the 3.0-litre V6 saloon here, and even a complete basket case could command £2,000 to £3,000 with a less dilapidated restoration £1,000 or two more. For something rather nicer, you'll need to budget in the region of £7,000 £9,000, while anything considered to be in the excellent category is comfortably heading for the mid-teens. The absolute best can fetch anything from £20,000 upwards. That values have been rising in recent years reflects the enthusiasm out there for classic Fords, and as the numbers of restoration cases dwindle with only good ones being left, you can expect them to continue climbing. As for the remainder of the range, smaller engined models can be a little cheaper than the figures quoted here. Estates are similar to saloons, and coupes are worth a little more.